to say what? Oh, for Christ's sake. It's the VMX Show, Season 7.
Hey now everybody, welcome to the VMX Show, Season 7, Episode 10. This is going to be kind of a quick one because I don't have a lot of news to talk about, but I do have your questions and comments to get through, and of course we're going to do the whole question of the week thing. So let's take a look at your questions and comments here from last week's episode. Let's see, Puffness says, sorry for that other comment, but what is the strangest movie you have seen? Off the top of my head, that would probably be Being John Malkovich, which was just... There was nothing normal about that movie. It was actually pretty good, but it was just very bizarre. Eva001 Writer says, have you ever been a fan of Japanese pop and rock music? Not particularly. Strange comment. Puffness also comments, must I have to play... You know, I keep asking you guys to do this, and you won't do this. Please, before you hit post, read your comment to yourself out loud. And if it sounds dumb, you probably need to work on the grammar. Must I have to play Chronicles of the Dark Lord 1 to understand Chronicles of the Dark Lord 2? It's Chronicles of a Dark Lord. You know, it's recommended that you do because, I mean, it is a direct continuation, but the beginning of it does have a recap. So you don't have to have played it. I do recommend you do, but you don't have to have. And then there's Eva001 Writer again says, has a game been too hard for you that you have to start using cheat devices like Game Shark? If a game is hard to the point where you know, where it would come to that, I just stop playing it. I've never used like a Game Shark or a Game Genie or anything because I just never had those devices. So the answer is no. Okay, Anna Driver asks me if I think the 3DS is overrated. Absolutely not. Underrated, if anything. And Anna Driver also says, second comment, sorry, have you heard of the Gundam anime? If so, what do... Alright, I keep asking you guys to stop asking me these, have you heard of this, and if so, what do you think? I'm so sick of those questions. Every episode I ask you to stop, but you keep doing it. Of course I've heard of it, and I don't care about it. I don't like anime. I have no interest in anime. I don't watch anime. I don't like anime. I don't want to hear about anime. Moving on. Lucas 2009. I got a used PS2 Slim from a thrift store for $30, and it works great. My old fat PS2 kicked the bucket last year. I just wanted to know any recommendations you would give to an RPG buff such as myself, and anything else you can recommend. Don't worry, Dragon Quest VIII is already on the list. Well, that would have been the first thing to mention. You know, there's the obvious Final Fantasy X and 12. You might want to check out a little game called R Tonalico and its sequel. The third one's on PS3, but those are pretty good games. Very funny too, if you're into humor in your RPGs. What else? Eco, Shadow of the Colossus. Those aren't necessarily RPGs, but if you're an RPG fan, you're a fan of storytelling and gaming, and you should check those out. Let's see. Ethan Green, do you prefer console or PC? And if PC, what are your specs? He spells that with a K. Okay, well, I like both PC gaming and also console gaming, and it really depends, you know, on the type of game. Like for example, first-person shooters I prefer to play on the PC. Strategy games I prefer to play on the PC. But like, you know, like platformers and action games and fighting games, I'd much prefer to play on console. As for my specs, give me a second here, let me bring that up. I have a fairly new computer that I just bought a few months ago. Let's see, it is an Alienware X51. The processor is an Intel Core i5-3330, so 3330 CPU at 3 gigahertz. 8 gigs of RAM. It's a 64-bit operating system. I have half a terabyte of space. My video card is the NVIDIA something or other. It's you know what? If you would have asked me like a few weeks ago, I would have been able to tell you. Let me go into Device Manager here, and I'll tell you exactly what the video card is. What is this? Unknown device? Whatever. Okay, the video card, let's see, not the sound card, I want the video card. Display adapters. It's the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660. So I think that's really all you need to know. Moving on here. Zombie Ryushu says, with the release of Monster World 4 on the Wii, would you like to see another Monster World game made? I mean, I don't care. I mean, it's... If they make another one, great. If they don't, that's fine too. Moving on. The Last Samurai 14. So excited for Bravely Default. I really enjoyed its predecessor, 4 Heroes of Light, and hearing that they added many of Final Fantasy V's trademark upgrades to the job system has made me more and more antsy for Square to localize it. Definitely a day one purchase for me. Hopefully Square will follow it up with Final Fantasy Type 0 localization if they have even the slightest bit of sense. If they had the slightest bit of sense, they would not bother with a localization of Final Fantasy Type 0, since that's a PSP game, and retailers do not sell PSP games anymore. There is no more PSP games sold in stores. I didn't like the 4 Heroes of Light. I started playing it actually not too long ago, and I gave up after a while just because it was so boring and dull. So Bravely Default, I'm probably going to skip on that, because I was not a fan of 4 Heroes of Light at all, really. Tried it, didn't like it. Not really good enough for me, but hey, I hope you do enjoy Bravely Default. If you enjoyed 4 Heroes of Light, I can assume that you'll probably like this one as well. What else did you say? Oh yeah, Type 0, I already kind of talked about that. CPman05 says, what the hell were these people thinking with the crossovers? Grand Theft Auto and that snowboarding game? Jeez. Castlevania and Metroid? What, are we just naming games that are slightly similar? Hell, why not just make Minecraft Tycoon? Oh, don't say that. People would love that. I love how these people keep thinking Nintendo could go under. It's ridiculous. Anywho, question time. Come 20 years from now, how many major consoles do you see there being? 3. There's never really going to be any more than 3 major consoles at a time. It's always been that way. At a time when there were too many, we had a video game crash. So, not counting PC, there's always going to be 3. I think a 4th one is going to wind up either not being successful, or it will be successful and it'll push one of the other 3 sort of out the door. Garnet Till Alexandros says, hi Necro, I have a few questions for you. Number 1, since you're part of a game developer, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into game development themselves? Well, you gotta put yourself out there and show people what you can do, show developers what you can do, and start networking. That's my advice there. Number 2, do you see Kazara Studios one day replacing game companies like Square Enix and Atlus? I ask because many fans of Kazara Studios have been starting to say that lately. Before any of the fans started saying it, we were saying it. That's sort of our vision statement, so I hope so, yes. And number 3, would you rather go to it... Okay, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Which would you rather go to if it came down to a choice, E3 or PAX? Well, if it came down to a choice, I'd probably rather go to E3, although I've heard PAX is great. So there's that. Okay, Tim Fife says, hey, Necro, I was answering to what you said on South Park. What are you talking about? When you guys just answer some random thing from last week, I'm going to remember. All right. My first question is, do you think Sony PlayStation 4 won't work to the point where Sony shut down their game development? And that's his only question. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to skip this because you got to word it in a way that it makes sense. Okay, let's see. Out of Saliva L5 is, what are some of your favorite Simpsons gags? Oh man, I could fill up a whole show with that. I mean, to be honest, I could talk about The Simpsons for hours. One of my favorites, and it's sort of a more recent one compared to what most people would pick, but because it was from season 18. There was that Christmas episode, with Gil staying at the house, and there was the whole thing about the Grumple, and I find Homer's loud whisper to be very funny, and me and my friend Joe are always going back and forth going, do you think that's the same Grumple from the ice show? I do. And also, did you lower the boom? No. Doh. It's one of my favorite episodes, and I could talk about The Simpsons for hours, though. I'm going to move on, though. Let's see, Pack is back. 04 says, yeah, a Pokemon crossover with Nobunaga's ambition sounds silly, but it was actually done well. I didn't ask, but okay. I got Pokemon Conquest last Christmas, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I've never really been too much into real-time strategy games, but Conquest has certainly got me interested. Anyway, it's been a while since I've commented on the VMX show, mainly because I suck at thinking of decent questions, but I'll ask something this time around. What games are you looking most forward to on the 3DS? I'm looking forward to that, the crossover. Actually, I don't know if that's 3DS or Wii U. There's going to be a crossover between Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei. I think that might be Wii U, though, now that I come to think of it. I am looking forward to... I know it's out, but I will say that I am looking forward to the new Luigi's Mansion, just because I haven't gotten it yet. And that's it off the top of my head. Oh, now, I just want to correct something, because I don't get how people can make these mistakes. Because you mentioned Pokemon Conquest, and you said that you are not into real-time strategy games. It's not a real-time strategy game. It's turn-based. I mean, if it's turn-based... how could it possibly be real time? I don't get that. People call Civilization a real time strategy, and I'm like, no, it's turn based. People call Final Fantasy Tactics real time strategy. Like, no, that's turn based. Real time strategy is in real time. Like, think like Pikmin. That's real time strategy. So just wanted to put the word out there. Let's see, Neva Ethlede, I think, or Neve Ethlede. Or Ethled, or I don't know how to say that. Hey, Necro, love the show. I have a few questions. The first is actually for Tanya Botello of Kazara Studios, so if you could ask her this, that'd be great, since I'd love to hear a response on the show. Her public Facebook profile says she's a transsexual woman. How does she feel being the first openly transsexual woman to be CEO of a video game company? Personally, I think she's a role model for the transgender community, and she should do some public speaking engagements. Well, why don't you ask her? She has a YouTube channel. It's Kazara Studios. If she hears this, she might come on and comment, but you'd get a better response just asking her. And he says, my second question is to you, Necro. What's it like working for Tanya and Kazara Studios in general? Can you give us some insight? Well, Tanya's great. I really enjoy working with her. We were friends before I started working there. People ask me to describe Tanya's personality, and I always say she is me with tits. Like if I had boobs and a vagina, that would be Tanya. I mean, we don't agree on everything, but we're pretty much like the same sense of humor and the same sort of business sense and everything, and we just work together really well. Working for Kazarth is great, and I mean there are of course going to be frustrations along the road, but for the most part, it's one of the best jobs I've ever had. Moving else, let's see, Alex Shannon, I said everything and everything else because I figured that'd make for a good fighting game that could satisfy everyone. It could take... Yeah, but you weren't answering my question. My question was, what is a video game crossover that you would like to see? Not something that would satisfy everything, but that you would like to see. It could take the place of Marvel vs. Capcom, SNK vs. Capcom, Mortal Kombat vs. DC, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Did anyone else think this game was more a broken version of Smash Brothers and Super Smash Brothers, although Mugen pretty much covers this? So why didn't you just say that? Like, I'm not looking for you to come up with what's going to please everybody. The question was, what is a video game crossover that you want to see? And a lot of people just kind of miss the point. Let's see. The 7K production says, Dear Sexy Bastard, do you like cheese? And then says, okay, I'm sorry for that absurd question. Well, everyone likes cheese. Here's an actual question. What is your favorite movie that has the whole it's so bad it's good motif, and what part of it was your favorite? Well, I've said a million times, I don't believe for a second that there's any such thing as it's so bad it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. There's no such thing as it's so bad it's good. Moving on. Almighty Santa says, which is your favorite game in the Shining series? Never really got into it. I mean, I've wanted to, but I've never really gotten into it. Because mostly because I never had a Sega console until the Dreamcast. I do have a Saturn, but I got that later on, and I just never got to own any of the Shining Force games. Or Shining games, period. Razarath Official says, what, you have two... Hold on, Razarath Official? I remember he was not Razarath 92. Is this a new channel? Like you're the official Razarath as to be I gotta say, like what? Like, there was somebody that's like the fake Razarath. It's not official. That's funny to me. I don't know. I just saw that right now, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Okay, he says, do you have any ideas you think could make a decent movie or video game? Yeah, but I'm not sharing them with you. In my opinion, a film about a mother trying to get her 2 children across the border to a safe zone could make a great film. Yeah, I think that's been made a million times, but probably, yeah. One more. Why do so many people think the internet is an excuse for incorrect grammar and general bastardization of the English language? Well, I can give you sort of an origin. If you remember back in the 90s when the internet started to blow up, you paid by time, like AOL and whatnot. You paid by the hour to be online, and people would try to keep things short, and that's kind of how the whole text-speak thing started. And, of course, when texting started, that also was, like you paid per text, and people tried to keep it short and everything. And it just sort of like, there's no excuse for it now, but people got lazy and they got used to doing that, so there's that. So anyway, I by the way, I'm watching your video now. I saw your video says someone dislikes me. It's kind of interesting. That's like, people ask me all the time why I disable likes and dislikes. It's because of shit like that, where somebody like, oh, you piss me off, so I'm gonna waste my time by running through every single video you have and pressing thumbs down. And I've had somebody do that with 18 different accounts. They did that to every video. Now think of that. The logistics of signing on and off to 18 different accounts and going through all of my videos. You know how many videos I have. It's pretty funny. Moving on. As Serpent21 says, being able to order Pizza Hut from your Xbox, huh? One is huge in Japan, the other, well, isn't. Dear Necro. Since we know you will eat at McDonald's and Taco Bell, but avoid Burger King and Pizza Hut, what are your feelings on Arby's? Do you like, or are you in the Sherry and Terry camp? Thank you, have a great day. I'm definitely in the Sherry and Terry camp. Arby's is nasty. If I want a roast beef sandwich, and I kind of do now, I will go to a deli and get a fresh one. So, there you go. Arby's is gross. Moving on. Here's Out of Saliva L5 again. When playing first-person shooters on consoles, do play with I think he means do you play with inverted or regular joystick controls? Do you think people just get used to being inverted or regular based on the first-person shooter they play, or is it something deeper or psychological? I play regular. I don't understand the inverted thing. So that sort of thing works, I think, really well for flying games, like Star Fox and whatnot. But for shooting games, if I want to shoot up, I want to press up. It's not a throttle, so I don't get it. I don't really know anybody that plays with the inverted control, so I really can't answer why they would. It's an interesting query, though. I don't know the answer. But I will ask you guys, does anybody use inverted controls in first-person shooters, or any first-person game like Skyrim or whatever? And if so, like, why? Like, is it just something you got used to, or do you prefer it? Dimebag Zombie says, no questions this time around, but I took your recommendation on Rush albums. It took a bit of searching in curio shops, but I added quite a bit to my vinyl collection. I got Signals, Permanent Waves, and 2112 as recommended. I decided to get Clockwork Angels on CD, though, because the newer production just doesn't translate well into Crosley speakers. Thanks for the recommendations. Wow, those are all great albums. And if you like Clockwork Angels, you should definitely get Snakes and Arrows, which was even better. Jeremy Fool says, hey Necro, 2 questions. I was wondering how you felt about Tecmo not bringing Fatal Frame 4 over to North America. And 2, are you a fan of how the Phantasy Star games have been handled since leaving its 2D RPG roots? Well, I kind of think that they're really like a completely separate series, not really related to the Phantasy Star, the original games at all. As for Fatal Frame, I never got into that series, so I kind of don't care, but, it is a shame that they're not bringing it over. Levite0401 says, hey Necro, I wanted to ask, what inspired you to create a YouTube channel, and if you could be a superhero, what would your name be, and what would your powers be? Well, I'm not going to reveal my secret identity to you, but I will say that what inspired me to create the YouTube channel, I mean, I've told the story a lot, but just to give you a very simple and concise answer, boredom. Let's see, Insane Wayne 253. I always enjoy this guy's comments. He says, I'm playing Fire Emblem Awakening and enjoying the hell out of it. Which character or characters ended up dying and you weren't worried during your playthrough? And fuck casual mode. Also, would you consider doing a playthrough of the Fire Emblem games in the future? Maybe. They're kind of long. I don't know. the battles get very, very long. As for Fire Emblem Awakening, I do agree, fuck casual mode. I don't play in casual mode, but I will admit that if I lose a character, I reset. So I go back to the beginning, and that kind of sucks when you're near the end and you're closing in on the last few units, and they get lucky. They get like a critical off and kill one of your units, or they surround the guy, and that could be rough. It happened a few times. Probably the most frustrating part was when I was trying to recruit Donald, and since he was level 1 and very weak, and really no skills, I tried to, you want to keep him away from the enemies and just have like the more powerful units go in, but to recruit him you had to level him up at least once during that battle, so that took like 5 or 6 tries to get it correct without him dying. I'm sort of towards the end of the game, but I'm also sort of like not really playing the story mode. I'm just like, because there's so much DLC and extra stuff and power logs and so yeah, I don't let my characters die. I don't like that happening. And finally, Space Godzilla, it's 1231 says Genesis is better than the Super NES. No, you're completely wrong. That's it's not even a matter of opinion. You're just wrong. You're incorrect on that. Genesis is a great console. I do get accused of like being very harsh on the Genesis and whatnot. I like the Genesis. But I say it as a fact because it is a fact. Super NES was better in pretty much almost every way. Like, you could make the argument that the Genesis ran faster, although that's actually a myth. But that really doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's all about the game library, and the Super NES just had a better game library. I mean, I've actually thought recently of doing something like along the lines of like a top 10 favorite Genesis games, just to show that I don't hate the console, because I get accused of hating it, which is bullshit. But to say it's better than Super NES is just wrong, incorrect. Moving on, let's see. Oh, I gotta extend the recording time. Jesus Christ, I'm talking for 20 minutes. Okay, so let's get to question of the week. Question of the week, of course, is where I ask you guys a question on Facebook. It is exclusive to Facebook. So if you want to get involved with that, you have to go to facebook.com/NecroVMX and hit like. Won't use anybody's real names because, I'm not sure if they would want to, so I'm just going to read off the answers. But let me come over here to my Facebook page, my public page, and read your answers for last week's question of the week, which I've only seen a few of the answers, and then I stopped looking. Let's see. Question of the week was, what was the last time you were genuinely blown away by a game's ending? Now, I got a good answers. I still got a lot of like crap answers where people didn't answer the question. But let's see. Okay, so what's the last time you were genuinely blown away by a game's ending? This person, first person says Metal Gear Solid 2. Win Back Covert Operations, the good ending. Wow, that's an obscure one. Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days for the Nintendo DS. Okay. This person says, well, I recently beat Chrono Trigger for the first time and I've gotten multiple endings, but the best ending made my head explode. Yeah, that's a good one. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, again. Actually, no, see, that's not a valid answer. I asked, what's the last time you were blown away by a game's ending? Not for you to name some games that you enjoy the ending to. So this, you can only answer one game, because that, so I'm saying that your answer is Kingdom Hearts 2, assuming you played that second. The first Borderlands ending blew me away. Last summer, Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals. Oh yeah, definitely. That's simple. BioShock Infinite, holy shit. That's also my answer. BioShock Infinite was the last time a game's ending blew me away. It wasn't too long ago. Manhunt 2 had a really good ending. Can't think of the last one that got me. Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm not asking for you to name endings that you like. I'm asking the last time. It's just very simple. Well, the question is, what's the last time you're genuinely blown away by a game's ending? Well, let me read the rest of this, because he's got a whole paragraph here. Mario Galaxy was really mind-blowing. Skyward Sword was pretty amazing. Alright, I'm not going to read the rest, because he's just naming a bunch of games, and that's not what I'm going for here. That's not answering the question. He also says he hasn't played BioShock Infinite yet. Excited to. Well, you should play it. Great game. Let's see. House of the Dead Overkill's ending was outrageous. That whole game was outrageous. Let's see. Okay. All right. See, the person that said Metal Gear Solid 2 said they take it back. And was the ending they got on Silent Hill Downpour was really trippy. Okay. This person, I will say the name. This is my friend Andrew. He says, Bioshock Infinite's ending was pretty mind-bending, and while it's not the full game, the end of Lonesome Road... You see, even Andy can't get it right. I'm asking the last game to have an ending that blew you away, not for you to name a bunch of them. Good lord. Let's see. This person says, for me, it has to be Bioshock Infinite. I kind of figured that might be a popular answer. Another person said Metal Gear Solid 4. Another said a month ago. See, that's another thing. A few people are saying when it happened. That's good. That's the kind of detail that I want. This person says a month ago, Mega Man 8. Now, I've beaten Mega Man 8. I can't see how that blew your mind, but whatever. As long as it did, that's a valid answer. I can't see how it did, but whatever. Assistant says, oh man, been a while since I've been legitimately blown away by the ending of a video game, but if I remember correctly, the ending of Zelda 64, I assume you mean Ocarina of Time. There's no such game as Zelda 64. Really kind of blew my mind, at least when I was 10 it did. Not sure if it would have the same effect at me in the age of 24 now. You know, I assuming you do mean Ocarina of Time, I think it's aged well. I think the ending it looks better now than it did then. Let's see, gotta be Portal 2, the ending was epic. Okay. Zelda Twilight Princess is another answer. Let's see, this person says Mass Effect 2. I only recently got to sink my teeth into the series, but I love the idea of my entire crew's lives hanging in the balance. If I were to name another, well, don't. But they do mention L.A. Noire. Okay. Has to be Journey. The ending gives me goosebumps every time. I think I might have been the only person that said Journey. I was kind of surprised. I expected that to be a popular answer. Birth by Sleep, of course, they're talking about the Kingdom Hearts game. Red Dead Redemption blew me away in a bad way with, well, I'm not going to say the rest of it because he spoils it. And he also mentions another game. So which is it? Which was the last one you played? He says Arkham City as well. Another person said Arkham City. Another person said Bioshock Infinite. Another person said Far Cry 3. Another person said Bioshock Infinite. This person said Heavy Rain, first game to make me feel like my actions had a consequence. This one says, I think it was R. Tonalico Koga on the PlayStation 3. Okay. This one says, I think the most of the old Mario games had good endings. Well, I wasn't asking you for more than one game, and I wasn't asking you what had a good ending. I was asking you, you tool, I was asking you, what was the last game that legitimately had an ending that blew your mind? I mean, this is really just a very simple question, and I don't understand how people can answer it incorrectly. Although this is an improvement over the last 2 weeks. See, this one says probably Lunar on Sega CD. Most game endings don't feel as epic as they did when I was a kid. Okay. Far Cry 3 so-called good ending. They both bummed me out. Okay. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. That's another person saying that. This was a long time ago, but I remember that I just had to step outside and reflect on the experience. Zach White said, all right. Okay, all right. Okay, this irritates me. This person says, Bioshock Infinite, which I spelled wrong, had a good ending. I wasn't blown away, though. Sadly, I can't remember the last ending that blew me away. Well, I wasn't asking you what game didn't blow you away. I was asking you what game did. If you don't have an answer, don't answer. But then he asks, what is mine? And I did answer that already, but I will say again, Bioshock Infinite was the last time I was blown away by an ending. Another person says Metal Gear Solid 4, and the final answer was Portal 2, definitely. So, going through that, it seems the most popular answer was definitely Bioshock Infinite. A couple of other games that showed up a few times. The Portal games, well, Portal 2 in particular. Kingdom Hearts came up a few times. Yeah, you know, pretty much the typical answers. Zelda Ocarina of Time came up a few times. I definitely did expect Bioshock Infinite to be an answer. I expected also to see Arkham City more than once. Of course, the one person that did say it said it along with another game, which is not what I was asking. Sometime either tonight or tomorrow, check out on the Facebook. I will ask the next question of the week. I always get a nice response when I ask questions, though I hope this time you guys can read the question carefully and actually answer the question that I'm asking and not, you know, some other random question. That being said, this was an improvement this week. Now, onto the news. I don't have a whole lot of news to talk about, but I will mention the few stories that I do have now. If you've heard the rumors of a new Final Fantasy Tactics game being in the works, it is true. However, don't get excited. Just really don't get excited at all. The new game is apparently called Final Fantasy Tactics S, and is probably going to be for cell phones, and it's going to be like kind of like one of those social games. So, if you're thinking that's the opposite, the opposite of what the FFT series stands for, then, well, And I feel the same way, but there you go. I just wanted to mention that because it's something to get excited over until you realize it's not. Now, a lot of people have been talking about this in the last week or so, that Nintendo's not going to be at E3. Nintendo's not going to be E3, so people getting a little doom and gloom about it and what it means and everything. Let me explain something to you guys, because there's been a lot of hyperbole. Nintendo is going to be at E3. They're going to have a booth. They're going to be showing games. They're going to be having a very big presence at E3. What they are not going to do is to have a big, expensive press conference. Now, the reason that they're not doing this is sort of up for speculation. I do have a theory. There's been multiple reasons espoused by people, but Nintendo has not said exactly why they're not going to have a big old press conference. Last year, if you remember, Konami pulled out of it. Konami was going to have a press conference, canceled it. So there was only 5 press conferences, which was Nintendo, Sega, Microsoft, Ubisoft, and EA. Now, I think the reason that Nintendo's not having a press conference, no, they're not in financial trouble, by the way. They had projected something like a loss of like $20 million for the end of 2012, and it turned out they actually made a shitload of money because they didn't expect the 3DS to do as well as it's doing. That being said, no, they're not in any kind of financial trouble or anything. The games are going to be there. And really, these E3 pre-conferences, they're not as important as they used to be. And if you think, think about this. E3 is coming up next month, but Microsoft is not going to be unveiling their new Xbox console at it. They're going to be unveiling it and this is another news story I was going to talk about, but they're going to be revealing the new Xbox console at a private press conference on, I think, May 21st, which is going to be an exciting day for many gamers. But, Nintendo has seen a lot of success with the Nintendo Direct videos, which you can get on your 3DS or your Wii U or whatever. They've been these half-hour-long little sort of, not press conferences because there's no press there, but just going directly to the fans, and people have gotten really excited about it. And Nintendo Direct is something that they can do regularly, and it's way better and way less expensive for them, and it's going to happen more often instead of waiting for E3, PAX, GDC, and Space World, basically 4 times a year. It's, more often. I think they're doing one every month. So, yes, E3 is still important, still serves a purpose. Nintendo's doing fine. They're not going to have a big, expensive press conference, but going around saying Nintendo's not going to be at E3, false. They will be at E3. They're just not going to hold a big press conference. So, unfortunate that we won't get to see, Iwata and Shigeru Miyamoto and Reggie Fils-Aimé. They will be there, though. For those of you who... I talked about Super Mario Crossover a few times. There's a new version of it. I just wanted to mention that very briefly. There is a Super Mario Crossover 3.0. Now, okay, I haven't actually watched the trailer, so I'm actually going to watch it. Oh, it's 5 minutes long. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, it looks like what they've added is more different graphic styles. I don't see any new characters. Where was that character select screen? I just saw it. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Yeah, it's the same characters. It's just new graphic modes, some new levels, things like that. So if you've been enjoying that, you might want to check it out. Okay. Also, now this is a bizarre story because I read this, that there's going to be a sequel to River City Ransom. There's going to be some crowdfunding. It's an indie development studio called Combat Studios, and they are partnering with the makers of River City Ransom EX. That was Million, and they're going to create an official worldwide follow-up to River City Ransom. I think they're forgetting that River City Ransom was actually part of the Hot-Blooded Punk Kunio series in Japan, and that it was actually the second game in the series, and there were many, many, many sequels, many of which did not come here. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. Because there was also like a WiiWare title, River City Ransom 2. I didn't get it. I just want to mention that, though, because it is an indie thing. So, yeah. Okay, I mentioned it briefly before. I did want to mention the Xbox news. May 21st, the next Xbox will be revealed. Now, of course, there's been a lot of speculation and whatnot. Don't believe anything until May 21st. So, just keep that in mind. Anything you hear is probably fake until then. Last news story I want to talk about is about the Wii U. Apparently, there's been a hacking group that has said they have found a way to hack the Wii U. They said they have completely reversed the Wii U drive authentication, disk encryption, file system, and everything else. So apparently, there's going to be a big blow-up in the Wii U hacking scene. However, Nintendo is already on the offensive, saying, we're going to sue the crap out of you, we're going to update our firmware, we're going to stop you, so... And I hope that's the case. Oh, there was one last thing I wanted to talk about. Somebody sent this to me on Facebook, and I thought it was really funny. And I've been seeing it going around the rounds on the meme pages and whatnot. But somebody over at Kazara Studios posted about this, and I thought it was really funny. There's a new indie game out there, which is called Game Developer Tycoon. And this is really funny. Apparently, it got heavily pirated. So there's people who pirated it. And the same people who pirated... I can't even say it. This is too funny. The same people who pirated the game have been going online and asking questions, asking for help. Because they can't progress in the game because they're going bankrupt. In the their game company is going bankrupt due to piracy. So, yeah, that's yeah. You get these little pop-ups, and I got one in front of me that says, "Sales report, boss. It seems that while many players play a new game, they steal it by downloading a cracked version rather than buying it legally. If players don't buy the game they like, we will sooner or later go bankrupt." Here is a post. On the game's forum, it says, "I can't progress further. Help. Guys, I reached some point where if I make a decent game with a score of 9 to 10, it gets pirated and I can't make any profit. It barely sells 100,000 units. I am during the Xbox One and PlayStation 2 generation. Back in the 80s and 90s, I could easily make a 1 million sales with a 9 to 10 game, but now it is not possible due to the piracy. It says, blah, blah, our game got pirated, stuff like that. Is there some way to avoid that? I mean, I can research a DRM or something. So far, I am going nowhere. My profit is little to none. If I make an average game 5 to 7, I get some cash, which is understandable, but then if I make a 9 to 10 game, I earn the same cash because I get the full message for the piracy. For the past 6 to 7 games, I ended up with the same amount of money for a few grand less. So, what do I have to do now? There's no point in inventing a new engine because the revolutionary game made out of it will get pirated and I will not be able to cover my expenses." Now, you know what's funny? This person pirated the game. Game Developer Tycoon. They didn't pay for it. And here they are online bitching about piracy in the game. That is funny. Here's another one. It says, why are there so many people that pirate? It ruins me. I had like 5 million and then people suddenly started pirating everything I made, even if I got really good ratings that I usually get. Not fair. Is there any way to keep it from not happening? Changing platform won't help. That person also pirated the game. They did not pay for it. I mean, this is very funny. This is very funny. I mean, that is a bit of delicious irony. That it's like cosmic irony. You can't hope for something that funny. But it actually does get better. The funny part is that the cracked version of the game, the pirated version that's out there, was put out there by the game developer. They wanted people to pirate it and then run into this problem. It's basically, this is like the biggest meta troll ever. They wanted people to pirate this game so that they would find out what it feels like and hopefully be a little introspective and say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't illegally download games. So there you go. If you do want to buy the game, it's $8. It's DRM free. So, by the way, I do have actually, I have a nice little pie chart here. Apparently, 93.6% of the people playing Game Dev Tycoon are playing the cracked version. 6.4% are actually playing the genuine version that they paid for. So, you know. I gotta say, that's just funny. If you want to buy the game, head over to let's see. I'm just trying to find the developer's website. It's for Windows and Mac and Linux. Apparently, it's not yet available on Steam, but there you go. You can get it at sites.fastspring.com/greenheartgame/product/game-dev-tycoon, all one word there. I recommend you check it out. If you've been pirating games, here's the game to pirate, and you'll know what it feels like. I think that's really funny. I gotta say that is that is really, really funny. Okay, so that's it for the news. I don't really have anything left to talk about, but I'm going to go through the sales figures, and then we're going to end the show. So, starting with game sales, here are the top 10 best-selling games in Japan for the week ending in April 21st. Number one game was Tomodachi Collection Shin Seikatsu for the 3DS. Wow, that's a big seller. 406,432 copies sold. Naruto Shippuden Narutimate Storm 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 86,752 copies. Seventh Dragon 2022 on PlayStation Portable, 74,694 copies. That sold. Luigi's Mansion 2, that's the Japanese title, for the 3DS, 43,962 copies. Animal Crossing Jump Out on the 3DS, 34,740 copies. Amnesia Crowd for PlayStation Portable, 25,865 copies sold. Cardfight Vanguard Ride to Victory for 3DS, 8,773 copies sold. One Piece Kaizoku Musou 2 for PlayStation 3, 7,864 units sold. Shiju Saikyu no Hunter Tachikara Nigakire, that's on 3DS, that sold 6,390 copies. New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS, 5,862 copies, so that's sold. Over in Europe, the top-selling game was Injustice Gods Among Us for the PlayStation 3, 55,368 copies. Fire Emblem Awakening for 3DS, 46,994 copies. Injustice Gods Among Us on the Xbox 360, 43,658 copies. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for the 3DS sold 27,498 copies. BioShock Infinite for PlayStation 3 sold 16,904 copies. SimCity for PC, 15,733 copies. BioShock Infinite for Xbox 360, 15,588 copies. Tomb Raider for PlayStation 3, 15,077 copies. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 on the PlayStation 3, 14,907 copies. And FIFA 13 for the PlayStation 3, 14,889 copies. In America, the top seller was Injustice Gods Among Us, the Xbox 360 version, 210,745 copies. The PlayStation 3 version, 145,249. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for the 3DS, 53,470 copies. Pandora's Tower on the Wii, 34,555 copies. Devil Summoner's Soul Hackers for 3DS, 32,187 copies. BioShock Infinite on the Xbox 360, 29,339 copies. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 on the Xbox 360, 26,982 copies. Halo 4 on the Xbox 360, 20,626 copies. Defiance on Xbox 360, 19,438 copies. And NBA 2K13 for the Xbox 360, 18,043 copies. So globally, Tomodachi Collection Shin Seikatsu was the big seller. Not Injustice was the big seller. It's just split over two different consoles, coming out to over 500,000 copies sold, just over Tomodachi. Luigi's Mansion was after that. Naruto is after that. Seventh Dragon, Fire Emblem. BioShock Infinite was probably above Fire Emblem because it's split among two units, but the PlayStation 3 one didn't chart as much. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and Pandora's Tower is also in there as a top seller worldwide. Okay, so as for systems, the top-selling system in Japan was, surprise, surprise, the 3DS. 72,682 3DSs sold in Japan. The Vita had a big surge, 14,828 Vitas sold. PlayStation 3 sold 14,196 units. The Wii U, 8,425 units. The PlayStation Portable, 7,692 units. The Xbox 360, 429 units, and the DS, 59. I'm amazed that there are 59 people in Japan who thought, let me go buy a DS instead of 3DS. Whatever. Over in Europe, the top-selling console was, surprise, surprise, the 3DS. 51,861 of those sold. Very close second, PlayStation 3. 50,665 of those sold. Xbox 360, 30,913 of those sold. The Wii, 8,939 units sold. The Wii U, 8,304 units sold. The Vita, 6,442 units sold. The DS, 4,447 units sold. And the PSP, 909 units sold. And finally, in America, the number one console was, actually, it is a bit of a surprise, the 3DS coming up on top over the Xbox 360 this week. 3DS, 48,299 of those sold. Close second was the Xbox 360, 43,238 units sold. The PlayStation 3, 34,614 units sold. The DS, 15,393 units sold. The Wii, 15,055 units sold. The Wii U, 12,922 units sold. The Vita, 5,315 units sold. And finally, the PSP, 1,172 units sold. So globally, 3DS, obviously the big winner. PlayStation 3 coming in second. Xbox 360, then Wii U. PlayStation Vita, the Wii, the DS, and the PSP is last. So that's the show. I'll see you guys next week. Leave me your questions and comments on this video. Look out for the question of the week on Facebook. I'll see you then. VMX out.